Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, then this is the show for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create the life you love or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and her co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. How are you doing, Coach K?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. Yes, I'm so excited about today because it's one of the topics that I love to talk about and to share about. It's one of my favorite intimacies of all intimacies.
It is, and probably one of the more important ones.
Yes, definitely, because I believe from this intimacy, it's the birth of all the others. And so you guys may think, what kind of intimacy is she talking about? That's the birth of all the others. And what I'm talking about today, and what we're going to talk about, real conversation on spiritual intimacy. And it is just such a, it just fills with life.
Yeah, it's the connection of life that you really need.
Right, definitely. It's the source of life and stuff. So I'm just looking so forward to having a conversation about spiritual intimacy and its impact, of course, on relationships. So before we get into that, we do have a charity of the month, and our charity of the month is Safe Children Coalition. It's a great organization to protect children, strengthen families, and build community. So if you're, looking at, I don't know, I want to do something to help protect children in so many different aspects, check out Safe Children, which is, the website is sccfl.org. So another thing, if you're out there listening, and following us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And I just want to give you guys a call to action. So if you're listening and you like our show and you're like, I'm talking about spiritual intimacy, and believe me, you want to listen to this because I will tie it into couples and relationships. And we have a great retreat coming up where you're going to learn about all forms of intimacy, and it's going to bring you guys closer in every aspect, including spiritual. So I have a retreat coming up in Costa Rica, and we have a discount code. So if you're really interested, and the discount code is worth $500. Yes. So please email Dr. April, bringingintimacyback.com. All right. So let's get into this whole spiritual intimacy. So Coach K, starting with you, when you hear the terminology spiritual intimacy, what does that mean to you?
I think about the unspoken, the unheard, just the feeling of almost like the subconscious spirituality within yourself, and how it sometimes connects with others with literally no words, no touching, just the energy flow almost.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, I love that definition. And I feel the same way. And I also feel like spiritual intimacy is that connection with whoever you call, I call it a higher power. And it's that connection with the creator of this earth. And I call them higher power. And it is that inside you where for me, I can feel it and I can hear it.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes.
And sometimes we even try to, ignore it, but it pulls you enough to make you vulnerable to yourself and to that higher power of yourself.
Right. And for me, when we talk about spiritual intimacy, for me to truly feel it, sometimes I have to be extremely quiet without any noise. It's to come inside and hey, and say, what is it saying to me? What is it
Mm,
talking to me today?
that clarity.
Right. Right. And with spiritual intimacy, many people say, well, do I have to go to church to experience it? Do I have to dress up and put on a fancy hat to experience it? And I'm saying, no, it's free. Um, you can experience this in your own bedroom,
Yes.
on the beach, of course, in a church, in a synagogue, in a temple.
Yeah. I think about, since you said that, I think about like when you first wake up in the morning. And, for me, we used to have 3 children at home. My husband usually leaves before I get up in the morning. And so when I wake up, and sometimes all I hear is all the birds chirping, but that is a calming peace with just me and my being. And any communication that I want to have with that energy or that higher power, it just flows through the mind and outward.
Right, right. And that energy and that thing that you just mentioned, that peace.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people get confused on, is this my higher power speaking to me? Is this myself? Is this? But when you're in that quietness and your thoughts are just running, and maybe they're putting you down, saying you're not good enough, you're this, you're that, that is not coming from your higher power. Your higher power wants what's good for you.
And sometimes you can even hear the difference of your own conscious self pulling you back, whereas your subconscious and spirit is trying to release you from that negative thought or those negative feelings. And just, you can hear, if you really sit with yourself and pay attention, you can hear yourself speaking to you versus that spirituality that flows through you. It's a subtle difference, but there is a difference.
Right. And I would even, for me, it's also when my spirit is talking to me, it's uses different words that I don't use in my everyday language.
Mm-hmm.
It says things to me. And throughout my life, even creating this show, it was something that my spirit talked to me about. And I feel
I'm
like,
glad. I'm
yes,
glad you listened.
yes, I'm glad that I listened too. Yeah. And it comes in like, for this show thing, this came up in a shower. Yeah, he just gave me the title and everything. This was maybe 5 or 6 years ago, but it was just that quietness.
A lot of those moments come in, and, I did talk about the bedroom, but in the shower, and I don't know if it is the constant chatter of the white noise of the water, because that's a part of nature, water flow.
Right.
But a lot of ideas and thoughts flow through your mind. And that's why I think it might be important, have a piece of paper and pen or pencil right outside of the shower. Because there are many times where I can be deeply thinking about this one idea or thing that's speaking to me. And I try to keep saying it so that I remember. And if I don't immediately go in the room and text it to myself, it will go away. And I won't remember it at all.
Right. Right. And another good thing I was just thinking about you saying with the little pad, and this even happened to me last night. So yesterday I had something on my mind. I just couldn't figure it out. Then I went to sleep and I had a dream. And in my dream, I felt like God was actually, I call him God, but it's also higher power, but I call him God, was speaking to me. And it's so good, like you said, to have a pad there to write it down, because I do believe that the higher power speaks to people in dreams, and you really have to sit there and think about it and really kind of stay still to hear what the impact of it.
I love you said that be still, to say peace, be still. That stillness will allow you to hear and feel so much and just get into the spirit of you and understanding that that's that connection that you have. I love that you talk about stillness.
Right. And you know that many people struggle with that. You know, we talk to the higher power and we tell them all our problems, you know. And I feel like the higher power already knows and sees everything. But it's then that's the time to just shut up, you know, not just talk and drop the mic and leave the room. Shut up and let him or her or the earth just talk to you.
Yeah, and flow through you and use you sometimes.
Right.
When I'm doing some of the classes, like the couples central touch class, I always tell them in the beginning, I have a set standard that I might read from, but as you all release and share energy with me, I may vary off the path to give you what I'm being asked to share. And that's a part of that spirituality, is open up to vulnerability.
Right, exactly. And you seem to open up to vulnerability, which is what the spirituality helps us do, is to open up and to be comfortable in ourselves. And when we have that spiritual intimacy and you're connected, it can lead you. Because if you know, like right now, which I feel like at this moment, this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be anywhere else. I know this is where my higher power wants me. What a sense of peace that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that peace can also happen because there's a thing that many people are trying to find happiness everywhere. Everywhere, everyone's trying to find happiness. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. But life goes in ebbs and flows. There's going to be loss. There's going to be hurt. There's going to be pain. And so what we really want to have is what we call joy. That even when there's situation around us that we don't understand, or there's, you know, we're grieving or whatever, the point of having a sense of joy is that spiritual connection, that I am going to get through this no matter what.
I love that you made it very clear that there's a big difference between happy and joy, because we spend so much time chasing a word, happy, and an image of what happy looks like, that we forget about the spiritual connection of joy that is inside. It's sometimes something you can't even explain.
Right, definitely. And so I know I said, how am I tying this all back to relationships? Well, your spirit, like you said earlier, it's about connecting with other people. And when you include the higher power in that process, I believe in that process, the higher power can help you connect with people you're supposed to connect with.
Every single time. It's like when you go to a place and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I met you. It was meant for me to be here. And, you know, I wasn't even going to come.
Right.
Well, that's because you allow yourself to be led by your spirit.
Right. And like you said, it could be in friendships, business, and even in the sense of both of us being entrepreneurs, it was like a spiritual connection that drew, you know, us together. Yeah. And if you're able to follow that, and if the person you're with is also able to follow that, that is just, because I believe that the higher power is not I call it God of confusion. He's not going to tell one person one thing, one person a next. So if you're able to connect in this spiritual aspect, then you're on one path together.
Yeah. And just, you know, and I always like to say that, you know, make sure you stay on that parallel path.
Right.
Because while you both have that ultimate goal of joy and stability together as one, your path that you walk in your spiritual path you have to stay on yours so that don't cross. And things get, like you said, they don't get confused.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And when,
Go on.
I was going to say, and when one partner is not open to allowing themselves to be vulnerable to that spirituality, that's when a lot of strife, tension, and confusion can come into a relationship. And that's where, you get a lot of the headbutting because one has allowed the spirituality and the vulnerability and openness to lead, where the other partner may fight it. They want their conscious to be in control.
Mm-hmm. Right. And sometimes, like you say, if you just want your conscious to be in control, you have a limited view.
Absolutely. And that could hurt. That limited view. You have to be able to let go. Tapping into that spiritual realm of self comes with not being in control.
Mm-hmm. Right. And with that limited view, and I'll be honest, yesterday I was just a little upset about something and I just had a limited view, but I knew it was my issue. And I couldn't really figure out like, what's going on until, that I had that spiritual interaction with my higher power to help me explain what's going on. What was my fear for me to go inside to look at that. And with that knowledge, then I know, hey, this is what I need. This is what I need to apologize for. This is the actions I know I need to take.
And you have to take that moment. You being able to step back, quiet yourself, calm yourself, and just feel. It allows you to understand.
Right, definitely. And I know in this show, we talk a lot about sexuality, and people say, how do you mix sexual intimacy with spiritual intimacy? But number one, our higher power created sex.
Exactly. And the spirituality and connection that you share through that sexual realm is truly magnified when both parties allow themselves to be open to their spirit realm.
Mm-hmm. Right. And when you, as a couple, invite your higher power into the bedroom, you're opening up all that vulnerability of connection.
Oh, and it's
high level. Yes. And you can, you can have the most, amazing orgasms and stuff and pleasure because you're bringing it all together.
1,000%. There are well over 60% of women, maybe even 70% of women who cannot achieve that orgasm, right? And when we talk, because I'm pretty sure you get those clients in there as well, when you realize that there's a blockage, and again, of trying to be in control of the body while in that sexual experience.
Right.
But when you're able to let go and allow the body to let the spirit take over, then you that's all I'm gonna say is listen.
Yes. And to even further this conversation, many women as you're listening to this, letting go means that number one, you have to be fully present. If you're sitting there thinking about paying bills, the kids, I don't know, what do I look like? Am I, pretty enough? All these other stuff that comes into our mind, then you're not going to be able to fully let that spirit and to be able to let go. First,
because that comes with a lot of vulnerability.
Right. And you have to be in vulnerability. That's allowing each partner to show up and be there for one another.
And their full, transparent self.
Right. And it's, how can I put it? For some people, it may be very scary. I mean, I was just in a session a week ago where a couple, they've had some trauma, and just even asking them to intimately kiss was so vulnerable for her. But it was that part of letting go. And part of that vulnerability, which is another topic that I want to bring up, is that in any relationship, guys, there is hurt. We're humans. We make mistakes. And one thing you learn about through spiritual intimacy is the ability to forgive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a thing called also forgiveness intimacy, which is really, really important. And so when your partner makes a mistake, and if you truly love your partner, if your partner truly loves you, you really have to look at people's heart.
Their intentions.
Their intentions, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. We literally talked about that recently, where too many people are set on the potential that someone has versus the intention. Potential, everyone's born has potential.
Right.
But without their intention, it means nothing. So I love that you're talking about when you're hurt. You know, some people say, how can you have sex with your partner when you're mad or when you're upset? Easy. When you have a deeper spiritual connection,
right,
and you're able to understand their intention.
Right.
Yeah, they made a humanly flesh mistake.
Right.
An error. The intention was what? That's what you look at.
Mm-hmm. And in the sense of exactly what you said, that whole part of touch, it's the first sense we are born with because we're getting through our mother's womb. But when you touch someone and you've been hurt and they've been hurt and you come together in touch and passion, that forgiveness, you know, I'm opening up myself to completely be vulnerable to you. And I know what's your intention. I know your heart. I see you. It's such a magnifying aspect.
And it honestly opens up things for your own life, not just with your partner, but it opens up doors in your life. When you let go of holding on to that thing that you don't have control over, you know, you make promotions at work, increase in business, relationship with the children, relationship with different family members. It starts to open up. So it all comes together.
Right. And to finish off on forgiveness is also forgiveness of yourself, because sometimes we can't even look at ourselves and whether we are just ashamed of ourselves. And that impacts our spiritual intimacy and our sexual intimacy. When we, how can I put it? Number one, guys, you cannot divorce yourself. You're with yourself.
Right.
So you might as well start to love yourself and appreciate yourself. And, you know, even your body, we get all into, you know, my boobs are sagging, my butt's flat, too big, whatever, arms, this and that. Each part of you is working for you. And if you sit there and talk trash about it, it's not going to work for you. And you got to remember, all connected to the spirit who created you.
Yes, and that's what we talked about, hearing the differences in the voices, you know, not listening to that negative self voice, but allowing that positive spiritual voice to speak, because everybody is different. So being able to look in the mirror and connect with yourself spiritually so that you can open up different realms for yourself to allow others into your space.
Mm-hmm. Right. And with that opening up and awareness, it's this one part of spirituality that is so powerful, that does bring joy and brings all this together, is that spiritual aspect of gratitude. Being thankful.
Yeah, and we don't give gratitude to ourselves enough. We don't give grace to ourselves enough. We don't give forgiveness, as you spoke of, to ourselves enough. We don't give what we give out. We don't boomerang that back to self. And we have to get more into that, or we're going to continue to be spiritually drained.
Mhm. And I'm glad you mentioned that you be spiritually drained, because what that means when you're spiritually drained and you're tired and tired and tired is because you've been doing all the work and you haven't been very vulnerable on letting your higher power take some of that load off you. You've just been in the grind. And so what we're also saying is so important to be thankful for everything that you have. And when you're grateful for the arm you have, for the TV you watch, for the phone you have, for the friend, for the husband, it changes your view.
Yes, there are some times that I can just, like if I'm in a state of tranquility or just a state of thinking or being, and my husband may be sitting on the sofa. Sometimes I look at him and I get filled with emotion because I am grateful. You know, I give gratitude to myself, but I am grateful for him. I'm grateful for the children, and just having that often that's my me spiritual time of openness, and it can happen at any time.
Mm-hmm.
But allowing that emotion to flow. And sometimes I may just go over and give one of them a hug or give him a kiss or something, just to, maybe I'm sharing that energy, at that time.
Right, right. Because we go back again, those hugs, those kisses, that's sharing that energy, it magnifies.
And it translates,
And
because you never know what someone in that household is feeling. If there's stale energy, in there. If you're connected and you allowed yourself to open up spiritually, that touch, like you said, could translate and open them up, or bring them to a better place where they may have been sunken down into a dark place.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so I was just thinking, it's people listening and they may be saying, well, how do I increase my spiritual intimacy? I think each of us can share some different ways to increase your spiritual intimacy. One way that I was just thinking is putting yourself in spots, especially outside, where there's quietness or where there's trees blowing, and actually hear nature as it works and nature as you see it, because nature is not perfect. Just like we're trying our best to be the perfect XYZ, but no tree looks the same. No tree is perfect this way, but they're all different and it all works together.
And even taking that a step further, there are many times that I will just walk outside, and the kids do it too, with no shoes on, and touching, because we talked about touching each other. So touching the earth, putting your feet in the grass. I wouldn't say necessarily lay in the grass because you can get itchy, but just being able to, or if you don't want to go outside, open a window and taking a breeze.
Mm-hmm.
Something just that simple, or just close your eyes, maybe even put in earbuds with no noise whatsoever, and just lay there as if you're floating in a pool, and you're just floating until you can feel yourself get light. Let your mind get completely free of all thoughts and just be.
Yes, and I love that. And when you do that type of experience, it's also good to take that experience and journal it, write it down. What happened? And if you're not if you don't like writing, some people draw, and drawings can be, and even going to see artwork can be a spiritual experience.
It really can. It's crazy how sometimes you can look at a picture and you can be anywhere, maybe riding down the street, and you see even graffiti on a wall, just the different colors.
Yes.
They can move you, because you may be able to see something inside of that even the artist may not have intended.
Right, definitely. And even today, I was just thinking about how God is so creative. And when we allow ourselves to be open and vulnerable and we create, because I'm not a cook, I will say that, but when people create different things or create even meals, it can be, and I've had wonderful meals, such a spiritual experience, especially when you're experiencing with others and you taste, because the other aspect is using your senses. So we talked about touch, but using the sense of taste is such a spiritual aspect.
Yeah, and that's while some people are advocates of kissers, like they love kissing. You
Yeah.
know, it's the taste, it's the touch, it's the smell, it's the action, it's closing your eyes and getting immersed in that feeling. That's a great way to just go away.
Yeah, definitely. And so I love how you said, and bringing this back into the sexuality, it's also like you said, that taste, that kissing, that slowing it down, kissing, um, you know, your partner from head to toe, exploring. And exploration is a wonderful way to connect spiritually.
Oh, absolutely. It really is. Even cuddling.
Yes. Yes.
Cuddling can do wonders. If you guys may have had a tough day, or maybe you're been arguing and you can't talk it out, you know, one thing that I talk about is for my couples, sometimes I say with the mat, just lay the mat on the floor. If you can't talk it out, lay the mat on the floor. That's a symbol of we just can sit on this mat, maybe our backs to each other, maybe we don't look at each other, but we just speak through our minds and we try to bring those tensions down so that we can find the words later to speak about it. Maybe we just hold each other on the mat. Even when we're angry, we just hold each other and we allow our energy to shift and change, and we let the spirit realm take over so that we can have those conversations in a better headspace later.
Right. I love that how you said just holding one another, and feeling that connection and not even talking, but letting energy, because people don't understand that we all give off some type of energy. And then when you let that spirit just come through, yeah.
So powerful.
I know, it's so powerful, yes. And another form of learning more of how to get deep into your spirituality is kind of what we're doing now. It's talking about it with others. You know, when you feel lost and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. If you have spiritual connections or a group, church group, or a group of friends that you can really just talk about, hey, this is what my heart, this is what I'm working through, because it's through people. And especially through good people or people that are spiritual that can work miracles.
Yeah, a good conversation can open up. You may not always have the words, but at least getting that conversation started to get to that understanding. And even knowing that you're in that same space together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, which really can help and impact, because in reality, we are all going through something. Nobody in this world is not going through anything. We're all going through something. And in that something, we can connect. And in that connection, we can do it together. So you don't feel alone.
Right. Because while sometimes people want to be alone, they may not need to be alone.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So I hope this conversation has definitely helped it. For me, it's just, I was so excited to talk about it just because it's something that, and if you're in session with me, you would hear me say a lot, you know, what is your inner spirit speaking to you about? Because that inner spirit, we all have it. It's not just something that some people have it. You have it too. But it's a little voice, it's a little thing inside you, and it's really a big thing inside you, but it's a quiet voice that you may hear that helps leads you. And you just have to listen to it, and it will, when you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing or what you're guided to do, it does help you feel more at peace in life. And so
Yes. And that's what
yes.
it's all about, finding your peace.
Yes, definitely. That's what it's all about. So if you've liked this conversation, please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. And we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in a moment to tell you what's coming up again.
Renew your love in beautiful tropical Costa Rica, the romantic getaway with your loved one. We'll make sure it happens. Vacation Counseling provides one-on-one counseling, intimacy sessions, yoga, ziplining, and so much more to help you and your partner rekindle the passion. Join us this summer in Costa Rica with Vacation Counseling. Book today on vacationcounseling.com.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Wow, thank you so much for that wonderful conversation.
Absolutely. This has been amazing and probably much needed.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. So we have some upcoming shows coming up. And Yes. Okay. On April 27th, we have How to Create Your Dream Relationship with Evan Mark. So that's next week, which is really, really exciting. May 4th, we're going to talk about couples retreats. Coach K and I do a variety of different couples things. So we are so interested in sharing that with you. May 11th, we're going to have relationship struggles with Lamitica and Sean. On May 18th, the emotional roller coaster triggers and that's going to be a lot about emotional intimacy and triggers and trauma that Coach K and I will be talking about. And then on May 25th, we're going to talk about the magic of connection, with Tom Glacier. Thank you guys so much for listening to our show today. I think it was something that was much needed. If you're out there and you're like, this was so wonderful, let us know, rate us. And if you would like more on this topic or other topics, please let us know. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you again for being and listening on the Bringing Intimacy Back show. We'll see you guys next week. And thank you so much. All right then. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7th book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.